Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about how to speed up your farms. What are things you can do to speed up your farming, how to get things faster in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I promise you there are ways outside of spending money, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So like, subscribe, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, and of course, before we get into our video, we've got to give a massive shout out to the channel members. Thank you guys for all of your continued support again. If you're ever interested in joining, that link is down below, along with a link to the Discord server. And of course, to those who are on the Wampa and Jedi Master tier, thank you guys again for continuing to put your faith in me to bring you good content. Again, guys, I really appreciate you. And if there's anything you want to see, you let me know. I am a man of the people. So let's get into the game. Let's talk about how to speed up your farming. Now, to just preface something, we're not talking about speeding up necessarily an individual character. I feel like we know how to do that. We're talking about how to speed up the entire journey guide process. That I know how I could get Tarful faster, but how can I get all of Jedi Knight Cal Kestis or Afra, Starkiller, Galactic Legends, all those things? That's what we're talking about with, say, speed up farming. Speeding up an individual character isn't hard, but to do the entire journey guide faster, that's where it gets interesting. So the first thing you can do is hard node refreshes. We talk about this a lot. It's a great way to ensure that you're going to get through something faster. But you need to understand which hard nodes you want to speed up. For example, with me doing Jedi Cal right now, there's no reason to refresh Saw Gerrera's node because I only need 2 shards left. And it's going to take me a lot longer to finish off Tarful. So there's no reason to rush Saw because I still need Tarful. Now, on the flip side, for, say, Bo-Katan Mandalore, where I need Paz, IG-12 and Grogu, and Keller and Beck, I don't want to be refreshing Paz Vizsla, because IG-12 and Grogu and Keller and Beck are still way behind him. So you want to start with the ones like this. All right, I'm going to do a single drop of Paz Vizsla. I'm going to be refreshing maybe these nodes here. And then as they start catching up to Paz Vizsla, I'm going to take a look and say, is Bo-Katan available? Will I be able to get her in time or not? Like, should I continue with this or should I maybe pull it back? That's kind of the decision you have to make. And the risk you're running is that, especially with something that isn't released yet in the journey guide. So for a lot of you, this might not apply in this particular instance, but think about it like this. Let's say that these are the last 3 characters you need for a Galactic Legend. If immediately upon 7-star, you can take them to the relic level they're required, and then boom, start your Galactic Legend event, then yes, it makes sense to rush them. But it doesn't make sense to rush them if you still need to get gear and signal data for them, because at that point, you just were spending crystals to have a 7-star character faster that you could have been putting those crystals into getting signal data or gear for them. And that kind of bleeds into something that I want to just make sure you understand here. Other thing to keep in mind is characters like Keller and Beck. He's somebody who I could slot into my Qui-Gon Jinn team today and get significant use out of. Whereas IG-12 and Grogu, Paz Vizsla, I don't really have a home for them yet. So rushing Keller and Beck up to relic levels could be a wise idea because it's going to make my team better. Now, again, the question you have to ask is, am I going to get enough resources from somebody like Keller and Beck? Is that really going to propel me into another level? And probably not. But for some of you, that could very well be the case where rushing to get Captain Rex done is going to significantly increase the amount of resources you're getting, or rushing to get, Darth Vader or Piet done. So those are instances where it can sometimes make sense to rush something if it's going to allow you to unlock something that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. The next thing to think about is you want to do your Cantina characters first, especially for these farms like Starkiller and Grand Inquisitor, where they not only require characters out of the Cantina, but there's also a signal data element to them. You want to get this stuff out of Cantina first, and here's why. Think about what you need for Starkiller, Dr. Afra. You need signal data for each of the characters, and then you also need them out of the Cantina. Well, the only place we can get signal data, right, is in the Cantina, right? Signal data, or I should say, signal data is in the Cantina. But you can also earn it in assault battles, in territory battles. Even in Conquest, you can buy this in hard mode Conquest with your currency. So there are other ways you can obtain signal data, right? There are ways that it will kind of naturally accumulate. But shards of Hondo and Sana don't really naturally accumulate unless they're like a login or a bonus somewhere. You don't really get a lot of shards of them. So you're far better off doing all of your Cantina characters first and then focusing on the signal data, because while you're building those characters, you could be potentially earning signal data along that time. and that's less farming you have to do. And I will tell you, this makes a huge difference, especially when you're doing a lot of Cantina farms. Think of that, like for Afra, it's only 2 characters and they're on 8 energy nodes, so not a lot of energy expenditure there. But think for Starkiller, you've got 2 16 energy nodes and a 12 energy node. So you're going to be spending a lot of time farming those characters. You will be paying dividends if you just spend that time accumulating signal data in any other way possible while building the characters, and you will be well on your way to getting Starkiller faster than if you farm the signal data first. Now, the one thing you could say here is, hey, I've got a Dash Rendar team. I could plug Hondo Onaka in there at Relic 5. Like, that could be another instance of, hey, this one character, by rushing to get them a little bit faster, I'm going to make my account better. That would be a good decision there. That could be a smart decision for players. But, you know, characters like Trip Zero, BT1, and Sana, I don't really have a place for them yet. So it's not worth me rushing to get those characters done or get them signal dated because I don't have the team for them. So again, Cantina characters first and then worry about your signal data. I promise you, you will, like, early on in the game, you might not get there, but once you start getting to those assault battles where you're earning those resources, I'm telling you, man, Cantina characters first and you will thank me for it later. Truthfully, like, I don't think I had to farm blue signal data by the time I unlocked Starkiller. That I had all the blue signal data accumulated from assault battles, because you do get a good bit of it. All right, next is gear focusing. Now, let me pause here for a second. You may be wondering, like, if we take a timeout, right? You may be wondering, how are these things speeding up my process? How is this getting me stuff faster? So go back to this example here. If you farm all your signal data, then you farm those characters. While you're building the characters, you're still earning signal data. So you spent time farming the signal data you didn't have to spend. So that's one side of the equation. But also, what it could allow you to do is think about with your hard nodes here, right? By doing these refreshes. If you have a bunch of characters you need to farm, by getting these done sooner, you can move on to the next thing. You could start building ships, or you could start doing this or that. You're getting ahead. Now, keep in mind, by doing these refreshes, you are spending crystals that maybe could go into something else. But the other side of this could be that you'll hit a point where, okay, I've got these characters, now I can spend time focusing on gear like Kyratex, and so that's kind of how you can't really buy time in this game. Outside of spending money, you can't buy more time, right? You don't get more than 24 hours in a day. That's a lesson for Star Wars and life. But what you do with that time becomes more important. So being able to use more resources in that 24 hours in this game will allow you to progress faster, right? So I want to make sure I pause there as we get into gear focusing. This is something that I think players really struggle with. So let's go to my Marin. What a lot of players will do when they're trying to gear a character is they'll look down here and say, okay, I need to get these pieces and this piece. So they go and farm this stuff. And then they're like, okay, then I need to build this one. Oh, I got to do it again. Then I got to build this one. And they look at it like one piece at a time. And so they put all their resources into this one piece. What's much better is look at the entire picture. Look at, okay, I need some of these. I need some of these pieces, right? Like, look at all the pieces that you need to unlock that character for that gear level and formulate your plan there. Don't get so, focused on one particular piece. Look at the whole piece of the pie. Look at the whole pie and say, okay, what resources can I use to get all of these things in the shortest amount of time possible? And that could be, okay, I'm going to farm this piece on nodes. I'm going to buy this with Mark II raid currency. I'm going to buy these pieces with Guild Event Currency 1. Shard shop, you find the way that you find what the best way works and you execute. I think by focusing on the whole thing, you will get there faster because you'll be able to make a little bit of progress here and there and potentially take advantage of any drops you would get from different events, right? That imagine you spent all of your time building this particular piece and then you start working on this and then you get a bonus drop of this piece. But by working on everything all together, you can take better advantage of those random drops you get from your conquests and territory battles, territory wars, all those different areas. Trust me, guys, it really works that way. Same thing with Kyratech. Kyratech's a big one that I think this is the only gear I farm on hard nodes, and it's the only gear I recommend you farm on hard nodes. Personally, I'm a big fan of farming these on the nodes because of the bronzium wiring that you can also earn on that node. Whereas these, I feel a lot better getting them out of the store. Now, the caveat here is early on in the game, you're probably not going to have that luxury. Unfortunately, you're not going to have that luxury like I do because you're not earning as many of that get two, right? So you're not able to purchase quite as much of that, so you might have to farm these nodes. But farming those is so lucrative, and instead use other ways like for Carbonis, you can use some of your currencies if you need, but remember, you get these things via daily challenges. So gear like Carbonis, you don't really have to farm quite as much anymore because of those galactic challenges, and instead you can focus on pieces like this if you need to buy them, right? That you focus on the pieces that you can't earn and kind of accumulate the stuff that just naturally happens in your account, like Carbonis, Stun Cuffs, and Stun Guns, through the challenges. And that way you're kind of making total progress, that you didn't build that Carboni with raid currency, and now you've got to wait around because you need 100 of these pieces, right? Or you need these Mark II or Mark III holo projectors, that you've built those with the currencies and you allowed your Carbonis to grow naturally over time. That's the way that I talk about gear focusing, that focus on the whole picture, not just one individual piece, and you will do so much better in this game. All right, the bonus drop trick. Now, this one's a lot harder to pull off, but when you can, oh man, it's so sweet. So, let's start with B1 Battle Droid here. Right now, B1 Battle Droid is the login character for February. So, let's say at the start of the month, I needed 90 shards of B1 Battle Droid. I need 90 shards to 7-star. Well, if you look at the login calendar, you're going to get 6 shards here, 8 here, and 10 here. That's a total of 24 shards in the first 9 days. And then you look between the rest of the calendar, if you add these up, you get to 60. So you're going to get 84 shards in the month of February for B1 Battle Droid. If I only needed 90 at the start of the month to 7-star him, do you know what the best thing is to do? Get to 84 shards remaining, and then just let the login calendar do the rest of the work. I promise you guys, this is one of the best things you can do when you're trying to farm one of these characters and you realize, hey, I can finish this character off with bonus drops and get a head start on my next farm. Oh my gosh, it just sets you so much further ahead. And this one's a little bit harder to pull off because maybe you already have B1 or you're not ready to farm him. But when you're doing it, if you can line this up, oh, it's perfect. And the same thing with other bonus drops. Think about like B2 Battle Droid being in here, or some of those assault battles that drop certain characters, like Kit Fisto. I have no reason why I need to get Kit Fisto right now. So I'm just letting him kind of naturally accumulate, and hopefully through some assault battles and some other random things, he's not available right now, but you can get his shards in like the Inquisitor assault battle. But hopefully at some point I just naturally accumulate those shards and I don't have to farm him in the Cantina or even with guild currency, even though it'd be so cheap. Like it's not worth it to me, right? So utilizing all those bonus drops to get 7-star characters is huge. And especially if you're an early game player, think about this with Bronziums. With your Bronzium data cards, if you look, one of the big characters in here, where is he at? Is General Veers. General Veers is in these packs. So if you're making this decision of, okay, I can only farm Dark Trooper or Moff Gideon or Veers, farm Dark Trooper and Gideon, and just kind of hope that maybe you get some Veers shards through Bronzium data packs. And maybe you don't get a ton, but that's more than you would have gotten if you were, like, think about it, that you got Veers shards while you were building those other characters, that you can't get those other characters via Bronziums, but you can get him. So that's a big thing I want to make sure I mention to you guys, is that trying to take advantage of these things, these bonus drops, is a big way to improve the speed with which you're farming. That make progress, you want to try and make what I call that, like, direct progress, that, okay, I am actively farming Keller and Beck and Tarful, and then I'm making, passive progress on your General Veers or characters from Bronziums or something. That's a big part of speeding up farms, is utilizing all the free resources. And then finally, you guys know I preach about this all the time, utilize the overlap. Even if they're not your favorite characters, like maybe Jedi Master Kenobi and Lord Vader are your 2 favorite characters, or, that you want to get Sith Eternal. But if you've built up these kind of characters, try to utilize that overlap, that these 3 share so many recs in common that building them one after the other will speed up your farm, because you've already put work in that's needed for the next GL. And so by utilizing that overlap to your advantage, you can make so much more progress in a smaller period of time than if you went for 3 other GLs that didn't have that overlap, because you've made that progress and it takes a lot less resources to get there. So trust me, guys, doing stuff like this will really improve the speed with which you're farming. And I know you're thinking to yourself, like, Phil, I wouldn't notice that, how am I supposed to notice that change? Honestly, the way you notice the change in your speed of farming is not over the course of a month or 2 months or even 3 months. It's going to take you, a calendar year or even longer, but you'll see it. You'll notice, you'll be like, wow, I'm doing way more stuff now than I was a year ago because you've been following this advice here. I promise you guys, this is how I've gone through the game. I've utilized the refreshes when it makes sense. I'm always farming the characters in the Cantina first and then worrying about my signal data. I focus on the full piece of the gear. I don't look at one gear piece and focus on that. I say, I need all of these things. How can I make sure I'm making progress on every single one at the same time? I mean, bonus drops, guys, use them when you can. And of course, make sure that we're utilizing overlap where possible. Try and get through as many things as quickly as you can because it does help your account. I hope my account is proof of that. You think I made Kyber 1 without a single Relic 8 Galactic Legend. So, when I didn't have those, I had all the other stuff because I just went and utilized the overlap where I could to build the best stuff possible. So, like, subscribe, comment. I love all you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.